Okay, now I'm going to show you a real mess that I'm going to work on today. It's just a nice balmy day. It's cloudy. It's February 10th, and it's been a cold winter so far. But now we've got a really nice day. It rained for 3 days. It's nice and wet, and this is a mess. This is the herb garden. This is what the herb garden looks like after months of winter and garbage falling in it and trees falling down, and I've been weeding it, just getting the old grass out. And I'm also pulling up the woven fence that I always use in here for the last several years. As you can see, it's rotting away, and generally I would go in and replace that wattle by wattle. But I don't want to this year. I just want something different. What I really wanted was stone. And I've got some marvelous stone, but I don't have any way to get it over here. So I decided to move my ever faithful old cast iron fencing from another part of the garden. I have moved this fencing so many times, and I don't really have enough to go all the way around, so I've got to work something out in order to use this properly. But this is great old fencing, and you know, it's so expensive now that probably couldn't afford it even if I could find it. But I'm lucky to have, I think, 8 or 9 pieces. So I'm going to see what I can do, if I can square in this herb garden, clean it up a bit, and then I'll show it to you in the next clip, all cleaned up. So I've been working on the cleanup here. I pulled up all the old wattle woven fencing, and I'm putting in this antique cast iron fencing, which I have used all over the place. I move it from place to place almost every year. I think I want to keep it in here this year. This thing is, I do not have enough. I am missing several panels, so I have to come up with a solution, and I think I have one. I think that by using my good old rusty rebar here, I can copy this fence, because I can get a hold of these same little finials, cast iron finials, online, and I think I can sort of like reproduce this piece of antique fencing so that I can finish off the area. Now right now it's a mess because this garden is quite a disaster. After the winter months, it's messy and sloppy, and dead things are all over the place, lots of twigs and leaves and sticks. But this is the section I have not cleaned anything out of here yet, but I've been working on this side and making some more wattle baskets, raised beds here, because I do want to retain the look of the woven branches, because I love the look, but I won't have the fence, so I will have the baskets. And I just weave these out of whatever I have pruned. I might be pruning rows of Sharon bushes, locust trees, mulberry trees. They're growing all over the place. You can use just about anything that will bend without breaking. And then I fill the bottom with all the dead debris so that I don't have to fill it with compost all the way up to the top. Get as much as I can in there to reuse all this garden debris, dead leaves, plant material, any kind of organic stuff that will work in there as a base, and then I will put compost on top of that. Then I can plant my herbs in here. And I think I will put in 4 of these woven beds. And waiting to do in here, you can see that I have wild grasses. I have creeping Charlie, creeping Jenny, a lot of this horrible creepy grass here. But among that, I still see there's a little yarrow. There's a yarrow. This is full of yarrow, I know that. Well, it's such a beautiful day, February. It's Valentine's Day. Yeah, that's right. And James brought me flowers. Yeah, he did. He brought me flowers. He went out in the meadow and he dug all those daffodils up for me. There are thousands of daffodils over in our meadow, and they just naturalized there. And I don't know how many are here, but probably hundreds of beautiful little tete-a-tete daffodils. So I thought, and he thought, they would look beautiful along the outside here of the wrought iron fence, just all along the border of the herb garden. Now this is an area that does not get a lot of sun, and it's a good thing that a lot of herbs are perfectly happy in shady areas, because this is not a sunny location at all. So I'm going to fill this in. I was going to actually go over there and pull some weeds, but now that I've got all these little tete-a-tete narcissus to plant, I'm going to fill in this beautiful space. We've had a lot of rain, so the dry creek is running alongside this herb garden, and all this is liatris. If you know anything about liatris, it is a ground cover that really takes its job seriously, and it can become kind of a pest if you get in a spot where you don't want it. But if I don't want it there, I'll just dig it up and put it somewhere else. Anyway, I'm going to fill this with a little narcissus, and we will actually have some beautiful color here. Just look at these big, beautiful clumps. I'm going to split them up just a little bit, spread them out, because these will naturalize right here, and before you know it, in a couple of years, this whole space will just be filled with these beautiful, lovely yellow daffs. Nice to see a little bit of sunshine today. I have surely missed that sunshine. I bet you have too. But it's also very cold today, about 34 degrees. But I was able to get all the narcissus in, and I planted nasturtium seeds in here with them. So you can put your nasturtium seeds in now, at this time of the year, even if you're in a cold area. We're in zone 7. And I think I'm going to take this little corner right here and do some snapdragons, which I'm also going to just sprinkle on top of the soil, and then probably cover with one of my little cloches while they germinate. So this is going to be very pretty. One thing I love to do is move plants from one garden to another if I have an excessive amount of them, or even an overabundance of them. So these beautiful red yarrow I moved from the slope garden on the vegetable garden on the slope, because I had so many of them that I had planted from seed, and they have done well all winter long. They've been growing like this, and that's just so great to get these sort of like free plants, and you're just moving them from one place to another. I also had several large patches of oregano, which I placed in this corner. The neat thing about the basket is you can plant something in the middle, but you can still plant all the way around it. Lettuce would be great to put in here because it's such a shady, cool area, even in the summer. But this is called strawberry spinach. It's been growing all winter long as well in the slope garden on the hill, and the chives as well. So I moved these over here just to get this place going. A lot of branches to create one of these woven baskets. But I really love these in my gardens because my gardens are pretty rustic, and I fill these up with the dead leaves and the debris as I did in the other one. This is the third one. I have one more to make. And then I will fill this to the top with compost, and that is what I will plant my herbs in. One thing that makes your heart really sing as a gardener is when you get down close to the ground in your garden and you find tiny little plants coming back from last year. This is Monarda or bee balm, which is going to be beautiful, as it always is every year, but it's so great to see it springing forth again back here in the herb garden. So this will be a nice backdrop and full of color, because these monardas are pink and red and going to be glorious with this woven basket in front of it, growing whatever herb I decide to put in there. I've also got a lot of daffodils coming in here. And then I discovered, much to my happiness, I'd forgotten all about this, because rocks were sitting on top of these. These are daylilies I put in, I guess, a year ago. I'd forgotten all about them. I guess when they died down, I forgot, and I put rocks on top of them. But these are pink and purple daylilies growing here alongside the dry creek on the other side of the herb garden. So that'll be pretty too. And then a little miscellaneous daffodils here and there. Some more little beauties that are springing up, or the nepeta or the catmint. Got several of these coming up in this little section. Got some tiny little leaves on the sage, which means it's starting to revive. From death unto life. We have the tiniest of the white yarrow coming back along here. Just look at the little fern life leaves of the yarrow. So in this big, beautiful urn right in the center of the herb garden, I had a rose called Grace. It was a David Austin rose. I put it there because it was supposed to tolerate shade. Well, it didn't like the shade at all, and last year did very poorly. So I dug it up, moved it into a sunny spot in the courtyard, and replaced the compost here, and put seeds here along the edges. I planted some pansies, pansy seed, a giant pansy, and then I put this big, rusty, beautiful trellis in for sweet peas. Now, sweet peas aren't an herb and you can't eat them. They are actually poisonous, sweet peas are, but we won't be eating those, obviously, but they will make a beautiful statement because they are mermaid and jewels of Albion. Those are the seeds that I put in there for the sweet peas, and I think they'll be able to tolerate this coolness. In fact, they'll like the coolness of this area quite well. Seed sowing has basically been winter sowing. I haven't done anything else but winter sowing, and I've done it in many different ways, and some of these ways are experimental. This is my cold frame, and I've actually filled it full of my little bins. Here's the variation. I only used the top of the bin. I planted directly into the soil inside the cold frame, directly into the soil, and I put my bins right on top. And so far, everything is doing great. So this is going to be my great, gigantic nursery bed. And it was so easy just to put the seeds directly into the soil. And of course they will have to be transplanted later, but I've got, I think 21 bins in here, which was pretty good. If you're like me, you really prefer to sow your seeds directly into the ground instead of having to go through all that transplanting, which you will have to do in many cases. But if you don't have to do it, that's so much better. And in this case, this particular planter, this zinc planter, is filled with snapdragon seeds. So I direct sowed the snapdragons right into the ground and put my little cloches over the top. These are acting as the mini greenhouses. The seeds have germinated, but I'm going to be leaving those cloches on top until those seeds get to a certain height and can make it on their own. But I think this is just a great way to direct sow instead of planting in trays. I did a lot of winter sowing in the clay pots by putting the seeds directly in the soil that I want to grow here. This is the asters, I believe. I'm going to start them in here. They've got the cloche over the top, just as if you were doing winter sowing in a milk jug. This is the same thing. It's just that it looks a little bit prettier, in my opinion. And I did a lot of those in a lot of different pots all around the potager and in other separate gardens. The tulips are coming back in these woven baskets. that I put in last year. This will be the last year for the woven baskets, and then I'll have to replace the weaving again, but they did pretty good. They lasted over a year. And here we have some more winter sowing in pots. A lot of things are coming up, including winter sown larkspur, and poppies are beginning to pop up. And joyous, 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 am I so happy. The poppies, the oriental poppies that I thought were dead, they weren't dead. They are alive and well, and they're springing back to life right here in this bed. You may remember late last summer, it was very, very hot. My oriental poppies here had not even bloomed yet, and they were looking spectacular, though. The leaves, the foliage was great. They looked so healthy. And then all of a sudden, all the leaves began to turn brown and just die off all the way down to the ground. So I thought for some reason I had killed them, or nature had killed them. But here they are again, revived and completely happy. And they have been growing like this all winter. They started to revive during the really cold weather. So this is just proof that poppies love the cold. Another plant that seems to have loved the cold is this salvia, which has also been growing all winter long. Lupins planted last year have been thriving in the cold. And the perennial tulips that I put in last year, they are returning. These are the foxgloves. They were itsy bitsy little squirts when I put them in last year from seedlings. Takes some foxgloves quite a long time to really get established, but this year they'll bloom. This is another plant that all year, all winter long has been going strong. I show you this just so that you know, for beginner gardeners, that your garden doesn't necessarily die in the winter, in the cold, even in the snow. You can have wonderful things growing in there, just getting stronger and stronger. And they're the plants that will be blooming usually in early spring. I got a dog here next to me. He doesn't want to leave my side. This is Sweet William, or dianthus. This is another plant that seems to love the cold weather, and it also loves the heat. So in the heat it'll bloom, and during the winter it'll just grow and grow, and the roots will get stronger and stronger. So here we have larkspur, little larkspurs coming up. This was from seed that I dropped in here. Over the winter, not protected at all, just grows and grows and grows under the snow and under the ice. And as you can see by that beautiful fern-like foliage, it's doing just fine. Lanthea is another one that just thrives in the cold and also does well in the heat. So things are reviving, and this is the wonderful time of the year because really you're getting out there, you're looking at all the new growth, all those wonderful little things that made it. I've got a basket here and ready to go, filled with compost and ready to plant. I'm going to go ahead and do some winter sowing in here. Now, it's still winter. It's still cold, and so this is a good time to go ahead and plant some herbs. Now, this is pennyroyal, and I love pennyroyal. It's got a beautiful fragrance, only grows about 10 to 12 inches tall, nice and upright. It's got a lot of medicinal uses. It's also a great dried flower, or herb, I should say. And we're going to put 7 seeds in each little section, just 7 little seeds, and I'm probably going to plant it over there in the back section. Now, because it doesn't get very tall, it'll have a nice backdrop over here where the red yarrow is growing, which will grow much, much taller than that. Seed onto my wet compost, moistened compost. Going to keep it moist in here, and I've covered them with these cloches. Now, cloches have been used in gardens for hundreds of years, and they're absolutely, I love cloches. I think they're beautiful and they're historic. They would have been glass cloches. These are hard plastic cloches with air holes, and these are really, really convenient. I like these. For one thing, they're not as expensive like glass cloches would be. But also they're reusable year after year after year, so you don't feel like you're just wasting plastic. But I've had these now for 3 or 4 years, and they've done really a lot of good in the garden. Now in this little section here, I'm going to do some beautiful little creeping time, and we're going to do the same thing with a smaller cloche. This is just a common thyme, and it's a very attractive plant as well, and very, very useful in cooking. Also, I love to dry this and use it for the potpourri mixes. So this is also a super tiny, tiny seed. Now I'm going to secure these into the ground with some landscape staples, so they won't be blowing away, and I want to have a nice tight seal all around here. Okay, Liam, that's good. Thanks for your help, buddy. Now these will act as little mini greenhouses. The condensation will appear inside. I'm going to close these up for now. And if it gets too hot, I'll open it up, let the air out. As the seedlings start to come up and they get taller and taller, I will not ever have to harden them off because they're growing right here in the space where they're going to be living permanently. So that's one of the things I love about this winter sowing method. And we'll see what happens, and we will keep up on this little bed here to see these lovely little herbs growing. Okay. Well, it's getting dark outside and it's getting very cold. So I think I'm going to say goodbye for this portion of the video. And we will be back in next week because I'm going to finish off this herb garden. I'm going to make the fence panels that are missing. I've got all the equipment to do that right now. And we'll see what it turns out like when this is all cleaned up and looking pretty good. So until then, this is Sherry from Hopalong Hollow. We'll see you later.